Hey, I just had a quick afternoon thought about sex. So a lot of people have interesting ideas about what sex is and what its place is inside of a person's life. Sex is kind of misunderstood in the modern culture, especially. I mean, in all cultures, it has had its place of misunderstanding or its sort of twisted version of it. But the Bible, it certainly has something different to say about sex than the culture does. Nowadays, sex is viewed largely as a form of identity. It's sort of sprung out of the post-World War II mindset that built up in the 50s and 60s and 70s, the sexual revolution, if you will. But sex has become more and more of a self-identity thing, something that you develop and build your identity around. And by doing this, people have invested more and more into sex that sex could never really do. You see, sex from a biblical perspective it's a very, very important and a very, it affects the person on a very low level. Sex is not just an act of base pleasure. Paul refers to sex in 1 Corinthians 6:18 through 26. He says that every other sin is outside of the body, whereas when you sin in a sexual way, you are sinning against the body. And he also goes further and says in Ephesians that that marriage is a great mystery and sex is a fundamental part of marriage. And then back in 1 Corinthians, we read that when you sleep with a prostitute, you become one flesh with a prostitute. But it's a profound sin. You see, it's a much greater sin than just lying or just cheating. It's a much more profound sin. Because you see, when you sin in a sexual way, you are sinning in a way that affects you much deeper than if you were to just simply lie, cheat, or steal. Now, all those things have an effect on your identity, but sexual sins and sex as a whole, sex that is righteous and good, has a profound impact on the person. It even has a profound impact on your identity. You see, this is why the Bible places sex squarely within a monogamous, lifelong relationship. Because God had designed sex with such a powerful impact on people, He meant for it to be between a man and a woman for life. Because when a couple gets married and they begin to have sex, transformation starts to occur in both of the parties. Because of the level of intimacy that occurs, you start to change as a person. You bond with that other person in a way that you never could have otherwise. And that bonding creates an energy within the relationship. It creates a unity within the relationship that God had designed through that act. In our more modern culture, with individualism gone past its beneficial stages, with it going into extreme narcissism and extreme egoism, with individualism becoming your base identity, now sex is something that is supposed to be your base identity. And of course, this is a form of idolatry. And when we sin in a sexual way, what we're doing is transforming ourselves in a much more fundamental way than when we sin in other ways. We're wreaking havoc on our souls, on our psyches, and we're dementing our minds in ways that we cannot fully grasp. And it takes us down roads that we ought never to go down. And so here I would like to say, we as Christians should be especially vigilant to avoid any sexual sin. Because sexual sin is much more profoundly damaging and destructive than if we were to sin in other ways. It goes down to the very root of our person, and it wreaks havoc there. It twists the way we view things, it twists the way we see things on a way that takes much longer to heal than if we were to sin in other ways. To be sure, all sin is an affront to God, and all sin is evil, and all sin must be punished. But sexual sin is not outside the body, as Paul says. Sexual sin is inside the body. It's deep within the person. And you sin against your own body, which is a temple of the Holy Spirit in you. And so today I just wanted to point that out, that sex is supposed to be enjoyed within a marriage context. You see, sex within a marriage context has such a fundamental and powerful impact on the person. Sex within the context that God has designed it is actually a remarkably beautiful thing. It's something that bonds the two people together in ways they couldn't otherwise be bonded. It's something that creates intimacy in ways that you couldn't otherwise have intimacy. It's something that is, if done in a righteous context, is beautiful, intensely beautiful.